Easter Monday, April 21st, 2025. Rome awoke beneath a silver sky, its ancient stones still humming with the echoes of hymns sung just hours before. For over 1 billion Catholics around the world, Easter Sunday had been a celebration of life, of resurrection. The Holy Father himself, Pope Francis, had appeared in St. Peter's Square just a day earlier. Fragile, yes, but present, smiling, waving, blessing infants in their mother's arms. His voice had failed him, but not his message. Peace, he said. Peace for Gaza, peace for Ukraine, hope for the poor. Then barely 24 hours later, the unthinkable. At 7:35 a.m., the Vatican announced that Pope Francis was dead. No illness had been reported, no emergency broadcast, no final address. One moment, he was the spiritual leader of the largest religious body on earth. The next, he was gone. And so begins a story, not only of a man, but of the last hours of a papacy that defied history, tradition, and even death itself. It was just yesterday, Easter Sunday. St. Peter's Square overflowed with over 70,000 faithful. Cameras rolled, journalists snapped photos, and there he was, Pope Francis. The 88-year-old pontiff in a wheelchair, cloaked in white, circled the square in the Pope-mobile. His right hand rose again and again to offer blessings. To the casual observer, he seemed tired, but no more than usual. Yet to those closest to him, there were signs. His breathing labored, his skin pale, his hands colder than normal. Vatican aides would later reveal to La Repubblica that the Pope had insisted on attending Easter Mass, despite warnings from his doctors. He said, one aide recounted, "If this is my last Easter, then I will celebrate it with the people." His final message, read aloud by an aide, was brief but heavy. It was not filled with triumphant declarations. It was a lament for children dying in war zones, for the starving, for the world's great thirst for death. Unbeknownst to all, those words were his last. The Vatican is no stranger to secrecy, but what happened in the early hours of Easter Monday remains clouded in mystery. Sources inside the Domus Sancti Marthae, the modest guest house where Pope Francis famously chose to live instead of the Grand Apostolic Palace, report that the pontiff rose early. He had a cup of mate, his favorite Argentine tea. He asked for the morning papers. Then, silence. An aide entered his room just after 7 a.m. The Pope was seated by the window facing east, where the sunrise broke through the clouds. He looked peaceful, as if asleep, but he was already gone. Dr. Marcello Tarantino, the Vatican's chief medical officer, was summoned immediately. At 7:23 a.m., he pronounced Pope Francis dead. Cause of death, respiratory failure due to complications from double pneumonia, a condition worsened by a lung partially removed during his youth in Argentina. When a pope dies, the church does not mourn, it moves fast. Protocols dating back centuries are set into motion, a ritual as old as the Renaissance. The Camerlengo, Cardinal Kevin Farrell in this case, is summoned. He calls the Pope's baptismal name 3 times, Jorge Mario, Jorge Mario, Jorge Mario. Silence. Confirmation. Then the ritual destruction of the fisherman's ring, the seal of papal authority, smashed with a silver hammer to prevent its misuse. But here Francis disrupted tradition once more. According to The Guardian, he had instructed no lavish funerals, no golden coffins, no catafalque. Instead of the ornate triple coffin, cypress, lead, and oak, Francis requested a single wooden casket lined with zinc. Instead of being embalmed and displayed atop a grand platform in St. Peter's Basilica, his body was to remain inside the coffin, lid removed, face exposed, but never paraded. And in perhaps the most symbolic break of all, he would not be buried in the Vatican, the Basilica of St. Mary Major. It is Rome's oldest Marian church, a place Francis visited over 100 times during his pontificate. Before and after every journey, he would pray before the icon of the Madonna, Salus Populi Romani. "She protected me," he once said, "and now I will rest near her." His grave will lie beneath its marble floor, not in the Vatican grottos alongside saints and popes, but in the heart of the eternal city, accessible to the people he loved. A pope, in death, still walking among the flock. The news sent shockwaves across continents. President Ursula von der Leyen called him a voice of conscience in an age of noise. Italy's Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, wept during her televised address. "I had the privilege," she said, "to call him a friend." U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, who met with Francis just hours before his death, expressed sorrow on behalf of millions. "He was a man who reminded us that faith is action," Vance said. "Even when he whispered, the world listened." In Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, Kyiv, Bogota, Manila, churches filled, candles lit, bells rang out from spires around the world. Even those of no faith paused, because Pope Francis had transcended religion. Within 9 days, the College of Cardinals, 132 in all, will enter the Sistine Chapel. No phones, no outside contact, locked in until white smoke rises. Behind those painted ceilings, cardinals will debate, pray, and argue over who can follow a man who changed the face of Catholicism. Will it be a reformer like him, or a return to conservatism? In this Jubilee year, when 32 million pilgrims are expected to pass through Rome, the stakes could not be higher. The Church stands at a crossroads, caught between its ancient rituals and a world in desperate need of relevance, mercy, and truth. Pope Francis once said, "The Church is not a museum for saints. It is a field hospital for the wounded." He lived that truth. In Buenos Aires, he walked among slums. In Rome, he dined with refugees. He washed the feet of prisoners. He embraced the disfigured. He made the most powerful institution on earth feel human. And now, the bells toll. The window in the papal apartment, once closed at his election in 2013, will soon be reopened for another. Another voice, another shepherd. But somewhere in the silence, you can still hear his final whisper. Go to the margins and build bridges, not walls. This was not just a pope. This was Jorge Mario Bergoglio. And even in death, he is still leading. For more real-time updates on the historic conclave and expert analysis of the Church's next chapter, subscribe and tap the bell icon. And if Pope Francis' story touched you, if it moved something in your soul, leave a comment below. The world is listening. This is the last Easter. This is history unfolding. Who will be the next pope? Click on this next video to find out.